Hanging out. Are we having fun yet? I am. Just hanging out with you is enough for me. I like you, so it's fun. Dad, are we hanging out today? Inspired by Micah C. Earley, age 3. What's going on, folks? Welcome back. It is so good to be in the zone with you. This week's episode of What Black Dads Think. First of all, if this is your first time tuning in, What Black Dads Think is an opportunity for us to hear from black dads, to talk to black dads, to hang out with black dads about a variety of different things. But early in the season, what we want to do, I want to have a conversation. I want you to kind of be introduced to this black dad. So in our inaugural episode, we had a conversation that I had with my 4 daughters, and a lot of energy, a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, go back and just you can pull it up on the site wherever you get your podcast. You can take a look at that. But then also this week, I have 4 daughters, but I actually have one son who is the oldest, and so I had to run it back. So this week I get a chance to kind of hang out with my son. Micah, good to see you, man.
What's up? Good to see you.
Yeah. It's funny because I see you more now than in a while, with you guys having moved from everywhere. Yeah. So before instead of me kind of talking about who you are, who is Micah Christopher Earley? Kind of tell us a little bit about your journey, because you're my oldest son. But I mean, I could talk about you all day, but just kind of tell us a little bit. Introduce yourself to folks.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'd say, who am I? I am a black man. I'm a believer. I am a lover of comedy and music. Really love history as well, and just how everything comes together as it relates to black people. That's one of my main focuses and my main priorities. But I'm also very big on public health and just systems and policies and whatnot. So a lot of things.
So kind of, you say you're big on public health. Where do you talk to us a little bit about the work that you do?
Yeah, so
I'm schooling and whatever else.
Yeah, so I'm a consultant. I'm a healthcare consultant for a major consulting firm, and I work with a variety of different states, nonprofit organizations, primarily in that aspect. But I've also worked as a federal contractor, done some nonprofit work, focusing on child welfare and health policy. But when you talk about schooling, I went to USC from Southern California. Went to USC. From there, I went to George Washington University in DC. Got a master's in public health, specifically in health policy, and now I'm currently working on my doctorate in, what's the full term? Health policy and healthcare management.
Okay, so. Cool. So you went to, and this is the funny part for us, because when you left high school, to go to USC, you never lived at home again. You left high school, you were at USC, you left USC, you went to Washington, D.C., left Washington, D.C., got married, moved to Chicago. When you left Chicago, your wife had a residency in Houston.
She had the residency in Chicago.
Oh, you moved to Houston for school.
Yeah.
You moved to Houston for school, was there for a little while, and then you finally made your way a little bit closer, by getting back to Arizona. So it's been real cool to have you close, and since you guys have been here. Also, he is the father of my oldest and my youngest grandson, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Because the grandchildren that those who saw the first episode saw, those are my oldest daughter's children. They're like the sandwich. Right. And his oldest Hezekiah, and then his youngest Haven, who is 2 months old. So yeah. So that's kind of it, man. But in this first season, what we want to do, we want to have some conversations, just about a variety of things. So we'll be talking a lot to dads with daughters, right? So we'll be having those conversations. But as folks just kind of get to know who I am and what the show is going to be about and where we're going, I want to ask you a question, man. Just right out the chute. Yeah. What's one word you would use to describe our relationship? You're gonna have to explain it, bro. So don't just.
I'm gonna have to explain it.
You're gonna have to give some context, yeah.
That's hard. One word?
You can take a couple of words if you need.
Okay. I'd say, one word would be real.
Okay.
Another one would be, I'd probably do 3. Friend. And another one is gracious. Probably advisor, whichever one you want to use.
Okay, so
Stuff
pick
like that.
one of those, and I ain't gonna make you explain all of them.
Real
but,
could
you
probably
know.
encapsulate all of it.
Okay, so
Okay.
what do you mean?
So I mean, I just think it's like we've been able to, even when I was younger, probably we've had a lot of real conversations, probably sooner than I probably should have, just
Mhm.
because you were like, you'd rather you tell me than like the world tell me, which is, you know, it's fun, it's funny how that worked out. But I think that the fact that it's real is the fact that you like we've always been able to say like, yo, this is what it is. Like, tell me what it is. You'll tell me like why I shouldn't do it, why you think I should do it, what you think about it. Trying to really just pick my brain about things, always through the lens of like, you know, whether it's spirituality, whether it's like, you know, the real world, whether it's politics, whether it's history, whether it's just, you know, my own personal being as a black man, like a black kid, whatever. Just really looking at it and seeing like always having that ability to, you know, maintain both like a legitimate real relationship and not get really caught up in like the lofty aspects of it, but at the same time being able to, you know, provide that tangible advice, but also, you know, that lofty like goal oriented stuff. But at the same time, I think you also made a real uh effort to like be a real friend. So I think that really made a very interesting dynamic to our relationship growing up, for better or for worse in some aspects, depending on what we're doing. But I think that
Stop
was
right there for a second.
Yeah.
You said for better, for worse.
Yeah.
Give me some for worse.
Well, I mean, I think it's just like you've sometimes it'll be like, you know, as a teenager especially, you know, like you're over here, you know, I have my friends, and I'll make crass jokes with my friends on like but on like a trivial level. But then I'll make the same crass joke with you, even though you get it and you probably think it's funny. You're like, whoa, man, like we can't make this joke right now. I'm still your dad. But if I make that joke at 21, that's funny. But at 16, 15, that's not funny. To check yourself.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
all right. So I'm gonna ask you something, and it's probably you have to project a little bit because when you think in terms of real friend, what was the third one? Real friend, advisor. Right. You're a dad now. You know, I mean, Hezzy's only 2, but when you reflect on our relationship, how do you project, you know, what that's going to mean for, you know, you as a dad?
It's interesting.
I got to say this first of all. For me, one of the most exciting things for me to see is to watch you being a dad, right? For good and bad. I mean, you know, it is what it is, right? Yeah. But how does you know our relationship? How does that project on? You know, I'm going to do these. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it really comes down to like what I want to do with him, what I think is important for him to do, like whether like, you know, focusing on those experiences and whatnot. But I think that, you know, really trying to find that fine line. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, I feel like sometimes I'm still in like big brother mode with him, where it's just like, I mean, because there's such an age gap between me and Mishi, I've been a big brother for babies for a while. So pivoting towards, you know, seeing that like, oh, that's my kid. Like I gotta like, I can be his friend and I want to be his friend, but at the same time, it's like, if he messes up, that's on me. So I have to like really trying to project that whole dichotomy and that nuance in terms of like, you want to just have like fun times with him the whole time, but at the same time, you're having to like guide him and like, yo, this is not what we're doing, in a way where it's like, if it was my little sister, or like, I'd be like, all right, well, you know, go about your business. Like, don't do it, whatever. But now it's like.
So being a dad to a young man, exciting, scary, both. 2 young men, actually. Now,
no, I say he's 2. He can't be a young man.
But I'm saying, projecting. We're projecting,
right,
bro.
Okay, got you.
Being a dad to, you know, to a future young man, exciting, intimidating. As you just think about it, I know how it was for me.
I won't say it's intimidating. I don't really like to say I get intimidated by a lot. Is it wary at times? Am I wary of things at times? For sure. I think that it's exciting just because I want to see, you know, you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't really know what he's going to turn out to be. You don't know what he's going to want to do. He's still figuring out his personality. You know, he's still figuring out what he likes, what he doesn't like. And like that, all those things change. I remember like when I was like 7, I wanted to be a baseball player. I'm not a baseball player. So it's just like really trying to figure out what those like. So it's exciting to see like, okay, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, think about the Will Smith song. Like, you know, I want to like, what are you gonna be, a doctor, an MC? Like, I want to teach you all the things. But anyway, so it's just like really, I'm excited to see how he's gonna interact. But it's also just like, oh crap, like that's still a black kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say that because it's like, I want to, as a parent, you see like all the greatness, all the best sides of your kid. You also see the dark sides of it, but it's just like you want the world to only see the best sides of your kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that like going into it, these kids, I mean, we live in Arizona, so it's already like, it's not California, I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know that like, okay, I have to teach him how to move in a certain space, all at the same time understanding himself enough and being confident in himself to like, when things get rough, being able to stand on who he is and who his principles are. And that's not easy. It was easy learning it, but to teach it, I'm not a teacher. You're a teacher. So I mean,
I don't think that made a difference.
But you talk to kids like you a lot of your career is focused on talking to like younger people. My career is not. So I think that's where a skill I have to really learn in terms of like, okay, how do I articulate to this kid right now just to get him both through this day, but also to build on it for moving forward.
What do you remember Mom's standard statement to you growing up being, as it relates to what you're talking about with Hezekiah? Don't forget you are what?
Did Mom say don't forget you're black?
Don't forget you're a black man in America.
Okay,
bro.
well, yeah, don't forget you're black man in America. That's black man in America part I definitely remember.
Yeah, and that part, I think that's what I hear you saying, because, you got to teach him how to kind of navigate. And that was always a challenge for, for me, because, and I do think there were times I went overboard, right? But one of
Really?
my, yeah, shut up, man. One of my fondest memories was when you were a freshman in college and your Halloween outfit, you remember what that was as a freshman?
Freshman in college?
In college, yeah.
I dressed up in college?
Yeah. He didn't dress up growing up, really.
I didn't. That's why I'm so surprised.
Yeah.
What did I?
He had on a white T-shirt. And remember, and the issue was
that
just...
wasn't freshman year. That was senior year.
Senior year of high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
right.
senior of college.
Senior of college. Okay,
yeah,
got it. But the point is just this, is that for me, I mean, that whole don't forget you're a black man in America is like, growing up, I didn't let you wear white T-shirts.
At all.
A little solid. I didn't want it because I didn't want you to get caught up in that uniform kind of. And that was a weird kind of, because you looking around and your cousins, everybody
all
else,
my cousins were doing it.
And you're like, well, why am I? Why I got to be?
They called me lame for it.
Well, that's
like,
but that and that it is kind of hard navigating that, man. So and that's kind of what I think in terms of the hardest part for me. And I hear you kind of saying something similar. So I would ask this. You have 4 sisters. Your perspective, and actually one of your sisters asked me to ask you this question.
Which one?
I'll tell you after you ask the question. What would you say is the difference in terms of how I raised you and interacted with you versus how I raised them and interacted with them?
You're much nicer to them.
What are you talking about?
You're much nicer to them. You care much more about their emotions. You care about how like they feel about things. And if people don't like, and when I don't care with how they feel about things, because you taught me that like, a man got to do what a man got to do. You got to get through it. Now, I'm not saying you made me like some stone cold killer, but I'm saying like, you were like, you can have your emotions and you can process them and you can feel them. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to push through them and get things taken care of in a way where I don't think you do that for them. I think that, and we could get really into this, but we probably won't. Right. I think that it might be also because of your older age. I was the first. So like 3, 4, and 5, there's a 6-year gap between them and Mariah. So like me and Mariah first batch, the second 3, the last 3 are the second batch.
You were like cookies or something, bro?
Pretty much at that point, the way y'all are popping them out. But like, I think that you coddle them in terms of, and not necessarily in a negative way, but you coddle them in terms of their emotions in a way where like, oh bro, like you're not really thinking how she feels about this. And I'm like, no, I don't care how she feels about it. We have to finish it. Like, she got to push through this. Like, oh, she's having a rough time in school. Dog, she got 4 years. She got 1 year, whatever she's going through. Get through it. It's rough. I know. I've been through some dark times in college by myself. So, I mean, I've seen it. But at the same time, it's like, get through it.
It's funny that you said that, because they would say and have said that I made them, like, bottle their emotions, like, hey. So
probably compared to the other girls.
So you
but
say,
like,
but compared to
me,
you, it's a different conversation. Yeah. All right, I don't know. I don't even know what to do with that.
I mean, because you always had the statement for like, what was it? I think it was Malia or somebody, where it's just like, don't go in the tank.
Yeah,
a lot of girls go in the tank.
You're right.
So it's just like, and I don't know if that's because of how you feel, because I don't personally like tears. So I'm like, I don't really like do well with that. But I think that you definitely told them like.
So let's develop that because this
Okay.
is going to connect to a program that we had previously with your sisters. Why would you say you don't like tears?
I don't like tears. Honestly, first it depends on who's crying, but I also feel like
Depends on who's crying or why they're crying.
both.
Okay,
But
go
I
ahead.
don't like. Yeah,
Go ahead.
but
I don't like tears. Go ahead.
He said, I don't like tears.
No, I'm just saying,
Okay,
I'm
so I don't like
listening
tears because
to
I
you.
feel as though like they're kind of weaponized. Like as soon as somebody cries, they immediately win that argument. In terms of like, wow, you made them cry. Like somebody like you and I have a tough conversation, right, in public. Let's say we're at a restaurant having a really rough conversation. As soon as you start crying,
Why I gotta be the one to cry?
I mean, it ain't gonna be me. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, go ahead.
So, we're like, I'm just talking to a girl or something like that, and like she starts crying. Everybody starts looking at me. Why does this big black guy make this girl cry? Like, what's going on? You must be a terrible person. It's like, nah, fam. She's just emotional like that. But nobody knows that. They just look at, oh, you made her cry. You made them cry.
Okay.
So it's just like whoever cries first, and it happens with women versus women too. And we get into like racial impacts of that, but we won't. But it's like women versus women cry. Whoever cries first oftentimes gets the sympathy. And everybody else is like, dang, well, I mean, even though you might have been right, like, why'd you make her cry? And it's like, that's whack. Like, right is right, usually. So that's just how I feel about it.
So thinking in terms of that, I mean, because your perspective on that is a little bit different. I don't think I would have said. I don't think I even think in terms of it being weaponized, and so I got my whole thing with that, and I don't know where it come from. I don't know. I mean, I know, and I talked about it with your sisters. I know why, but I know that even like with you when you were growing up, I was like, bro, if you're gonna cry, can we have a reason? Can I mean, like save your tears for something that matters?
Absolutely.
But that was my perspective because you might have been like, I was crying because that mattered.
No.
So yeah. So I mean, or you may just have the same problem I have.
Right.
So whatever that is.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So here's my question. How do you deal with your 2-year-old when he cries?
So, well, recently he's 2. So the terrible 2 thing is real. But before when he was younger, he was good in terms of like he really only cried when he needed something or when something was like fixable. He wasn't just crying for the sake of like I just want to cry. And if he was, I was pretty good about all right, let's just go outside. He loves going outside. Knock that out really quickly. Now it's like I'm crying because I want you to be around or I want to be held because my little brother's being held. But he's not articulating that, so you got to figure it out. But I mean, when he's just crying, I'm still the same way. Like, yo, why are you crying? Like, what do you want? Tell me what you want. What do you need? Like, and if you just over here like just crying, I'm like, all right, bro. Like, you just gonna do this. That's just how you feel. And put you right down right here. Get it out, and then we'll get if you need food or something like that, we'll go from there.
Right.
That might not be the best way to go about it. I'm still figuring it out. So.
No, I mean, and it's a journey, man. Because I'm still figuring out. My 19, 21-year-old, 20. How old? No, 24. She's 24.
No, Melly's
23.
2001.
She's 24.
To 23.
Okay.
She's about to 24.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she'll be 24. And I'm still trying to figure that kind of out. So I don't have answer to that. But let me ask you this, man. Because when dads think in terms of raising their kids, oftentimes they don't reflect.
Right.
And I think in terms of my dad never asked me this, and I'm not sure that a lot of us as men really want to always hear the answer to this. So, what was the hardest part about being my son? Or is. It could be was or is, but the hardest part about being my son.
There's a couple things, but
dang, bro.
I mean, like I think that growing up or now,
either way,
growing up is for sure like I say that you're a contrarian. You're fine going against the grain in a way that like I necessarily wasn't. Probably still not fully comfortable with it. I can go against it. The older I get, the more it's easier. But because I have to rationalize a lot of things. So if I'm over here listening to what you're telling me to do, like let's go back to the T-shirt thing. I'm over here having to rationalize that. People over here making fun of me. It's like, oh, like, bro, why aren't you dressing like... It's a trend. It's fashionable. It's fun. People like dressing like trends. But it's like, my dad won't let me. It's like, that's not, how do you rationalize that? How do you articulate that? You sound like, this sounds worse. And then like, oh, I just don't like it. That would have been better. All right, cool. That's just not his style. But it's like, no, I actually want to do it, but I can't. And that's hard to articulate. It's hard to rationalize, especially when you're still frustrated as a kid doing that. So really just going against the grain on certain things is difficult, especially when you're like by yourself in it. Like I'm like a black kid in the suburb, white Mexican suburbs. Like, so everything's a little magnified in terms of like you're already going against the grain by just existing.
Okay.
Now you're going against the grain even more because of their expectations of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And then you're over here just like, you know, like, look, do it. Like, and
stand.
Like, yeah, stand.
Swim upstream.
But that's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. You know,
like salmon swim upstream because they're about to die. Like,
or because they know their purpose.
Yeah, their purpose is to go upstream and die.
And produce,
and then
bro.
die. And die.
Go
but
ahead.
like, they don't eat on the way up. So, like, it's just like, yo, you standing, but like, yo, you about to die. Like, so, I mean, when it comes down to it, yeah, for sure can stand. But like, on a daily basis, like, swimming upstream all the time is tiring. So, I mean, for that extended metaphor. But I think that, like, that was difficult. I think that now it's more so just... It's not, I mean, it's just more so like, it's something you have to live with in terms of just like seeing the effects of how you were raised, for better or for worse. Like, I've always had the issue of like, I've always felt like I've had a stronger conscience than my friends. So like everything I do, I have to once again rationalize, is this right? Is this wrong? Why am I doing this? In a way where it's just like, sometimes people just want to be. And like, it's easier just to be. And like, you know, I just did it because I wanted to. I like the way it felt. I like the way, like, that's never really been like, I don't know if it's allowed.
Or an option.
An option, allowed, whatever you want to do.
So let me give you a perspective, bro. The first part you said in terms of swimming upstream, right?
Right.
One of the reasons why I probably pushed you, because there's a lot of things growing up that I should have done, that I could have done, and moves I could have made, but I was worried about the direction of the stream. I was worried about the fact that, you know, it's like, dang, man, just go and do this. And it wasn't really until I came to faith in Christ that I was like, man, I remember sitting in class at Howard, and I was like, you know, once I came to, and I was like, you know what, dang, you know what? I used to be like, dang, if I raise my hand right now and I got a different perspective, you know, dang, what if I'm wrong? But once I came to faith in Christ, I was like, what if I'm right? And everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just had the confidence, like, man, I'll get out there. I'll put myself out there, right?
Yeah.
So, and I realized that there was a strength to that. So then I'm thinking, as I raise my kids, I don't specifically my first son, because, you know, my first and only, I'm like, bro, just, you know, don't worry about what other folks, I almost said the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry about what other folks are thinking. You know,
it's not that kind of podcast.
You know, it ain't that kind of podcast. You know, don't worry about what other folks are thinking. You know, just get after it, right? You know, and just kind of be you and do, and not even thinking about the fact of how hard it may have been for a 10-year-old,
right,
or for a 12-year-old. Yeah. You know, I remember when you had with a little kid at your high school, like, man, Mikey, you know, you one of the whitest black kids you ever met. Yeah, middle school, right? Yeah. And then when you came back and you handled it, then homeboy was like, I don't know what to do. And so for me, when I think about that,
school. Yeah.
No, it was at Granada.
Maybe it happened twice.
Yeah, well, whatever the case, well, you probably checked them once and checked them again. But that perspective was one of, because you articulate, because you got good grades.
The same kid from middle school and high school. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. So he didn't learn his lesson, right?
Yeah. He learned in high school, but yeah.
But the point being is just this, is that, you know, so for me, I'm like, dude, don't be afraid to live who you are, you know, to live your creed just because nobody else is doing it.
Right.
But not thinking about the fact that, man, I'm trying to get this dude, this 12-year-old, a meal that I didn't get until I was 21.
Right.
You know, and so I get it.
And I also think, like, you talk about, like, you know, when you became a believer and how that changed, I think that you and I have had a very different experience because of the fact that you became a believer. I won't say primarily sinners, but you became a believer at an older age.
Would you say you won't say primarily what?
Primarily, not sinners. They're all sinners. We're all sinners. But more so
after a lot of debauchery.
No, but like your homies were like your crew was much more like worldly, if you will, debaucherous. I don't know what you want to call them. Yeah. Those are your friends. Those are my uncles.
I got you.
But I think that as opposed to, you know, me, I'm growing up in a like much more like I came to faith earlier
Mm-hmm.
had a crew of people that were professing the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So to go against people that are supposed to be your parallels, your peers,
Mm-hmm.
is also more difficult because it's like, no, we're supposed to be on the same level. We're supposed to be like, as opposed to like, you can say like, oh no, you guys are wrong because it's just you versus 10,000, relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But as me, it's like, yo, this is my crew of 5, and I'm over here going against my crew of 5. It's like, we all supposed to be the same, bro. Like, we're supposed to be on the same level,
Mm-hmm.
moving the same way and stuff like that. So I think that that's something that also makes your ability to stand a little easier at times, just because it's like, because it's just you, as opposed to like,
and then maybe and I know you were only son, but I didn't. I think about it like I kind of grew up as an only child because your uncle. No, but think about it. Your uncle was gone when I was in 7th grade. He's gone. So
how much older is he than you?
He's 4 years, 5 grades.
Oh, he skip. Yeah.
So for me, I like had this.
Did you come back a lot?
Huh?
Did you come back a lot or no?
He came around. You know what I mean? He was in the Marine Corps. He was doing his thing, right?
Okay.
And so for me, it was like I'm vibing, in a whole different lane, kind of by myself. I was like, man, why you worried about what these other cats think?
Right.
So not and
That's
just
fair.
forgetting the fact that that's what young people do. That's what like. No, be 20 now.
Exactly. And that's why I always joke that like you
So I
kind of
get
like
it.
try to age
I
this
understand
sooner.
that. I understand that.
Yeah.
So thinking in terms of this, because we've had, if we were to say right now, who's your favorite hip hop artist?
I'd rather not say on this podcast.
No, just your favorite hip hop.
Favorite hip hop artist?
One of your favorite hip hop artists. You can pick one.
Oh, my favorite is on I Got a Shirt, but I mean,
but they can't see your shirt, bro.
I know, that's why I'm trying to.
All right, okay, go ahead.
My favorite hip hop artist is Kanye.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but from a hip hop artistry perspective, I think that nobody's touching him. Another favorite artist that I have is Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. So I got a lot though. I'm a huge fan of hip hop. Okay.
So if I was if we were to talk about songs and different things like that, we would have a real different. I mean, we both love hip hop, but not the same way, or not the same.
I don't think you
artist.
love it as much as you used to. I'm almost positive you don't.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
but that's not because I don't love it's not that I don't love the genre. I don't love what the genre is producing. I mean, like wordplay. Cause see, hip hop for me is always been wordplay, huh?
I don't think the genre's changed that much.
What do you mean?
I think the genre's pretty much the same, depending on like there's more niches. And I think that one, you're not diving into here as much as you used to.
Mumble don't do nothing for me, man.
Mumble hasn't been around since 2016
or whatever you call it now. What you got them do now?
Mumble, like literally, Mumble was a phase of maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so let me step away from that. But the deal is just this: is that for me, it's not that, and I don't know how we got on this. But,
you asked me about my favorite hip hop artist.
Yeah, no, but I was going somewhere with that.
Okay.
I was literally going somewhere with that, and so.
Because I could turn into that podcast.
Yeah, well, that may be the podcast that we have to do later.
Right,
Yeah. But for me, I love the wordplay. So I still love it as much. I just don't. I still love rhyming. I still love.
And to that point, I can see why there's not the ones that you're going to hear that have that wordplay and that rhyming. They're there, but you're more so at this point. I feel like very much so more concerned about the content of what they're rhyming.
That's why you're right.
Because some of the greatest rappers, you're not trying to listen to at this point. Because you don't like what they're saying, which is fine.
Greatest,
yes. Oh, it's the best out right now.
Oh, okay, fair.
Best out right
fair
now.
Fair enough. All right,
I mean,
cool.
But you also.
So where am I going with this question? The question really is just this: is that we have a lot of stuff that we agree on, a lot of stuff we don't agree on. We've had times we've had hard times.
Kanye. So you put me on to Kanye.
Yeah,
so,
but I put you on the edited Walmart version.
That's
and then you were like, I can't buy this. I'm missing the music.
Yeah, we all. I am.
No, bro. Okay. Anyway, this is the point. Is what I've always appreciated about our relationship. Well, you know what? I'll just say, and you can tell me your thoughts on it. Whenever we needed to connect and talk about, I said it as a riddle, riddle. Whenever we needed to connect or talk about something that was hard. What were the two contexts that we were able to talk about things in?
Context and
what did we do? What did we go do to be able to find that space to be able to kind of have those conversations?
Oh, I mean, fishing was one of them for sure.
Okay.
That's the one I can think of off the top of my head in terms of the two that we did. I mean, we didn't really talk during Laker games that we watched, but I would say food maybe. Yeah, eating. Yeah,
I mean,
fishing,
and that's
yeah.
two. That's
Okay,
why
there you go.
I have fishing and food, right?
Mhm.
And so thinking just in terms of of relationships that created a space when we used. It created a space because something we both like doing. We get out there, relax, and
Right,
talk,
right,
and this,
right.
that, and the other. When you think in terms of being a dad,
Mm-hmm.
um, even now with a 2-year-old, man, what are those spaces that you started to try to create with your son to where, because I think it's important that young men have opportunity to talk to their dads
Right, right.
if their dad is a present, or young men have opportunity to talk to whoever that male figure is about things that matter in life.
Okay.
As you think about it, is there any things you think like, dang, I want to do some things with Hezzy, or you found spaces to kind of connect with him around that?
Yeah, I mean, he's 2, so he's still just like a ball of like chaotic energy at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what I do try to do is expose him to certain things and really get him like to really understand these things. So I know that like he likes being outside.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if he's inside, I try to like, put on nature shows for him or like
Mm-hmm.
really teach him about like different animals and stuff like that just so that we can like understand that cuz I think that like it's a huge world and I think that he needs to know as much about it as he can especially if he likes it. But I mean as it relates to those spaces where we can like really connect. It's cold right now, but I do want to like get outside more in terms of just I do at some point want to take him fishing. I like ocean fishing more, but they don't have that in
Gotta start
Arizona.
somewhere, bro.
Right. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I need you to sit still so I can teach you how to do it. You're
Mhm.
2, you're trying to do everything but. So
Mhm.
I think that like we still try to connect in the water. So I mean, I like to swim with him. Like I like to like get out there and just hang out with him there. He likes it.
Mhm.
So I mean, those are the kind of things that I really try to. I'm trying to make him connect with them via food.
Mhm.
And he's still 2 years, so he's picky. But
Mhm.
at the same time, connect with him on that aspect when I can. Maybe I'll cook him something like make it like recipe and stuff like that. So, I mean, those areas that like I kind of connected, I know that work for me. I try to make them work for him, and I got to still feel him out in terms of what he wants to do.
So it's one thing that Uncle Brian said,
Mm-hmm.
that he said it with Avery, but
Right.
and then I learned
Was he on this podcast?
Huh?
Was he
No,
on here?
BQ has not been on
Okay.
yet. No, he's not been on yet. No, neither some of the other, my roommates, but they'll be
Right.
on. Marco has though.
Okay.
But the deal is the deal is
That
that
must have been fun.
one of the things he used to always say is that it's not so much that your kids care what you're doing, they just kind of want to do it with you.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm realizing, which is really weird because it's like sometimes he wants to be around. Like this morning, I was getting ready. He's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just getting dressed." He's like, "You're getting dressed." Hangs out with me in the bathroom while I'm getting dressed, and it's just like, okay, I guess. Like, but like a lot of things, like, he sees me working on something, he just wants to grab a tool to bring me, of course, the most dangerous tool. Dad, it's a hammer, and it's like, come on, bro. Like, but at the same time, he wants to like use like, oh, can you teach me how to do this, things like that, and it's just like, that's interesting. I didn't realize that because I'm like, why would you do this? Like, if you don't have to do this work, why would you want to? Just want to be around, and I think that that's something I'm realizing. So I agree with you in terms of like they just want to be around sometimes. I think especially now that he's seeing the younger one getting all that attention, he's just like, all right, let's just come here, like let's just hang. And I'm like, that's fine, because I mean, I'm not gonna push back against
So I
it.
asked your sister this question. I want to get your take on it. What's what is one of the fondest memories you have growing up, and then also what's one of those memories where you're like, that really wasn't cool in terms of me and our interaction, not just generally speaking.
Fondest memories. Man, we had a lot of good time. So I mean, I don't necessarily know if I have like one crazy like, because they're all been like I said, we had a lot of good times. So I mean, depending on how I'm feeling, that was a good time. I would say that a fond one is, I think when we were fishing, and I think it was me, you, and Jackson, and we went out there to catch fish, and we ended up just catching a bunch of squid.
I remember.
And like I was like, what the heck? Like, what am I gonna do with all this squid? We cooked it, we ate a lot of it, but like it was just random, and it was just like a random experience because like that's never gonna happen again. Where we're catching this many squid. It just happened
They were
randomly.
coming up inking on the
They were
boat.
coming
It was
inking on
wild,
everything.
man.
Like it was
Yeah,
insane. And I was just like, all right, cool. We had like the little squid jigs they were selling. Like we just reeled them in. So I mean, that's one of really cool experience because it's just like a random time that you have a good time. I think those the older I get, the more I appreciate those random times where it's just like you didn't really know it was gonna be dope, but it ended up being dope. Less fun times. I'd always tell my friends, and me and my friends always connect on this, especially my black homies, where it's just like there's a period right before every dude turns 18 where him and his dad are just going at it for like 2 years. And I always say it's between like 15 and a half to 18, like 16 to like 17 and a half, whatever you want to do, however that works out. And I think that was like really rough because I think that when you grow up the entire time having a pretty good relationship with your dad, and all of a sudden he's just turning up on you for no reason all the time. And we might have had additional context and factors into that, but I think that at the same time it happens across the board with me and all my friends. We're just like, yo, when did you and your dad really start getting into it? It's like, yo, about 16. And it's like, that's why. And the older I got, the more I was like, why did that happen? Then when I realized, I was like, I kind of understood it more. Like I said, I have to rationalize things. So I really just put myself in that perspective, like, why did this happen this way?
What did you come up with?
I realized the fact that, like, as a man, like, your job is to really prepare your kid to get out in the world, especially your son. And you realize at that point that the clock is really ticking. And it's like, I got 2 years. After this, I don't really know what you're going to do, where you're going to go, who you're going to be. I have to make sure that you are as capable as possible to get through these specific times as possible. So if I just
feel like you were prepared?
Do I feel like I was prepared? Yeah. I don't necessarily know if I needed to go through that hard time to be prepared, but I do think I was prepared. And I think but I don't know if necessarily that got me prepared.
Okay.
I think a lot of things outside of that got me prepared. But I think I just think it's just more so like it's a stressful factor on the dad's part. It was like, bro, like, this is it. I gotta get everything together. Like, you gotta tighten up on everything. On top of the fact that, you got a dude going tons of hormones being pumped in your house. Like, you've been the only man there the entire time, but now this dude's over here, like, lifting, going out, blah, 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 trying to get freedom and like independence. But at the same time, yo, dad, I need some money. And it's like, that doesn't really like connect. It's like, you big and bad until it's time to pay. So I think that's like, I rationalize a lot of things over the time. I think about it a lot, but I think that's one of the things where it's just like, yeah, that kind of sucked. Like, it was just not fun. And I think that's like, I hate that I have to look forward to that.
You gave 2 examples, and maybe if you do it better, you probably
No, it's gonna happen. I feel like at this point it's gonna happen one way, shape, or form. It might not look the same way.
Right,
Yeah.
and hopefully you'll do it better.
Right.
Two things that you said though that made me think about that. One is, I don't know if you said one is because you want to get them prepared, and the second one is the hormone thing, right?
Right.
And keep it perfect. I think the preparation part were conversations that your mom was having. Because she had it with all the guys. We only got a couple of times. We need to really. That's why when we took the trip to Kings Canyon and all the rest of the kind of stuff, like, this is going to be a last road trip and all this kind of stuff, right? So we're thinking about that. I don't think I thought about that. I think really a lot of our thing was like, like, who the heck is this brother trying to, buck up? What's going on here?
Right.
And then you're going to ask me for something?
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, what?
Yes, I'm still a kid.
Or situations where it was like, where I had to kind of step in because I was like, okay, yes, she's your mother, but this is my wife. And no, bro, you ain't about to take advantage of nothing in this space because my responsibility when y'all gone. So I would love to say it was like, oh, I want to get him prepared.
Oh no, I didn't say.
I know, yeah, but consciously, that wasn't. Unfortunately, I don't think that I was more so on that hormone vibe. I was like, man, it's another man in my house, man. We're gonna have to figure this out quickly. Yeah, But then this is the question: is that because we've had these conversations too. You said when you graduated from SC, you kind of felt like I was like, and just kind of put you in the wind.
Oh, for sure.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I always go back to the fact that, like, when I got into grad school, like, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I graduated, I had an internship, but I was like, bro, I got to do something. So I applied at the end of my year to try to get into school. I got into school. I moved out to DC. I think when I visited DC, you didn't come with me because Uncle D was driving me around the city looking at stuff.
Well, I mean, we had been to DC before.
Right. But
no, when you went to visit and make the decision about George Washington, I wasn't with you.
You weren't. I don't know who I was with. It might have just been me. I only remember Uncle D driving around the city. But anyway, That being said, I think that also when I got there, you were just kind of like, you didn't help me move in. You didn't help me do anything. You just helped me
Find your place, bro.
You helped me find a place. Bro, like, we're not doing that. But help me find a place. I go. You didn't help me find a place. Let's say that.
All right, go ahead.
I go because I didn't have a place at that point. So yeah, you did. Thanks. But you dropped me off. You didn't even drop me off. You said, "Yo, here's your luggage. Get out there. Go." I've never been here. I don't even know this woman.
I had people pick you up. I had you set up.
Did
man.
you?
Yeah. There.
Who picked? So then maybe that's when.
That's when he's over.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, I didn't ever even visit it then at that point. Long story short, I went there like, you just kind of dropped me off. Do your thing. Get out there. Like, I wasn't getting money from you. I wasn't doing anything. It was just like, get out there. I think you guys mailed me a couple things, and mailed me my vacuum cleaner and stuff like that. I was in like a little basement studio apartment.
So
like,
do you think that as a dad, that was it? Do you? I know you feel, obviously you feel a certain kind of way, but do you think it was irresponsible? Do you think it was unloving? Do you think what are your as you process this back and run it back in your brain? How do you think about that?
I don't think it was irresponsible because it wasn't like you threw me into danger. I think it was. I won't even say unloving. I think it was like there was a level of like support that just wasn't there. It was kind of just like, get out there. Like, you got it. And I feel like part of that is because, like, once again, rationalized, I could be wrong. You were just like, yo, I did it. You could do it.
Fair enough.
Even though you didn't do it, because Nana told me that Grandpa moved you out to D.C.
He took me out to D.C.
You didn't take me out to D.C.?
Well, fair enough. I took you in 9th grade.
Bro. All right, so.
Go ahead.
Like, that being said.
You, man. You already know what it was
absolutely
like,
not.
man.
We spent more time in New York. But anyway.
Right, fair enough.
I think that was really just like, all right, cool. And I didn't even realize until I got there. Like, and I was really like, okay, shoot, like, now I got to figure it out. Like, I got to, like, do everything. I got to, like, get, I did all the school stuff myself. Like, applying for undergrad, you get a lot of help from your parents, if you're lucky. This time, like, I did it all myself, had to, navigate student aid, all these different things. And it was just like, dang, like, I'm just out here figuring it out myself. And it was nice because, I had a bunch of friends from USC that came out there with me, but a lot of them were living together. So it was just like, all right, y'all have that benefit of, I'm over here, like, having to, like, rekindle a relationship with my dad's old college friend who's owning the place that I'm living in and having that relationship. But at the same time, that's still my landlord. So trying to maintain a level of professionalism at the same time maintaining a level of, cordiality and, friendship and, like, family. But it's a really weird mix. But long story short, and you were just always trying to, like, yeah, you got it.
So check this out.
But it didn't really mess me up because until I realized you didn't do that with the rest of us.
What do you mean?
You did not do that with Mariah.
I did it with all of my sons.
Exactly. 100% of it. Crossing super consistency, right?
Consistent,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
No, but I said, okay, so here's the question. And I'm just kind of reflecting on this, and you've talked about this a little bit in other conversations that we had. When you think in terms of I just kind of put you out there. Handle your business, right? Just kind of like in middle school when I was like, you need to take wood shop. Right. I mean, it's been a couple of different things in life when I was like, just kind of get after it and go for it. When you look back on it now, is your perspective still the same? Or has it, because I'm thinking in terms of, because I got to, as we get older, we got to kind of analyze and think about,
right.
Okay, 5 years from now, you're going to be like, what kind of dad was I that has yet to?
Right.
Okay. So now I'm thinking through, and as a granddad, I get to run some things back, right? But I'm like, okay, was it really that bad? Was it really good as I thought it was? Looking back, just in terms of that, or any other time where I just kind of push you into the pool of life, looking back on it now, what do you think about
that specific scenario, or
any
all of them?
Any of them?
So I mean, I think like we go back to the woodshop one because that was a good one because I was over trying to do something else. I ended up using that. And I think that, like, now I still know my way around tools and saws a bit more than my peers do. Well, not my peers, my friends. They don't really know as much about it. And, like, when I was doing something in college, I had to, like, yo, we need to make this out of wood. And it's just like, all right, well, who knows how to do it? And I was like, I guess I could try. I understand it enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that like I honestly that thing worked out because I think I'm more handy than like a good amount of my friends sometimes.
Okay.
So I think that worked out. I think with the going out to DC part, it was more so like it kind of just let me know, all right, cool, I can do it.
Mm.
Like I've been through like rough times. I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Did I need to know that I could do it? I don't think so. I would hate like I think I would appreciate the fact that I didn't know that I could do it.
But you said you would have appreciated the fact that you.
I like knowing that you can go through some rough times is cool, but it's also better to not have to go through those rough times.
Fair.
So I think that like that's so I'm like, all right, cool. I know I can make it. I know I've done it before. I've been able to be like, and I've been, like I have the mentality even as I get older. It's just like, all right, cool. I might not have that much money because I didn't have that much money then, but I know if my rent's paid, I can at least sit here and be broke. Like, and that's really what's helped me. Like as I continue to prioritize and hopefully don't get to that point again. But like. Really just looking, all right, cool. I know I can make it. I got a little bit of food in the fridge. I know I got a place to be broke at.
Okay.
So I think that was nice and that's good to know. But I also think that like that time I went through a level of loneliness that I'd never experienced before. In a way where it's just like I was like I really remember sitting one day I was just like, yo, like, and it might have been seasonal affective disorder. I don't know when I felt it, but I know that like I was at a certain point I was like, yo, like I'm actually lonely. Like this is actually weird. And I had friends and stuff, but it was at the same time I'm going home to by myself. And like, once again, like I loved it.
Was that because you had been in a house full of people growing
up?
No.
I mean, I think it was just like, I had roommates my entire time from like basically from like lived in a house full of people, went to college, always had a roommate. Even like lived in a house full of people. So now it's like I have a landlord that lives upstairs and she's great, but like she does her own thing and I do my own thing. But once again, it's cold, it's dark. I'm across the country, so it's just like, it is what it is. So I say that, like, it's nice to have known that, like, okay, cool. I know what I can go through, but at the same time, I realized for the first time, like, yo, like, that was actually the 100 points that I was like, okay, what do my emotions look like? What is happiness? Okay. Does happiness matter? Am I alone? Like, I'm lonely. Okay, how do I not be that? Like, what do I have to do to get out there and stuff like that? So that's really where it put me through a specific space where I'm just like, all right, understanding a bit more of myself, but at the same time, sometimes you wish you didn't have to understand that much about yourself. Okay. So yeah.
All right. Well, you know what, man, we've talked about covered a lot of ground. I'm gonna ask you a couple of things before we get out of here. Sure. The one is just this: is how would you say that we're the same, and how would you say we were different, distinctly?
We are the same because we have a pretty morbid sense of humor. And we tend to find the humor in a lot of things. And at the same time, we will fixate on the holistic approach of things.
What do you mean?
We'll be like, we'll connect things where like, oh, I didn't do the dishes. You'll get mad at me for not doing the dishes. And you'll be over here like, you didn't do the dishes. And you didn't make your bed a week ago. And you sleep in. Most people would be like, those three don't have much to do with each other. Those are three separate chores, three separate lifestyle choices, blah, blah, blah. You're over here like, nah, it's a holistic thing. It all connects, and this is how. It's a lack of discipline.
So you do the same thing?
To a degree. I can't stand it. Yes.
Okay.
Like, I'll just be connecting like, okay, no, this happened 2 weeks ago. This happened this, and this happened this. Like, and like, you guys don't see the pattern. We look for a lot of patterns, and we find a lot of patterns. Okay. I think that where we're different is the fact that like, I think at this point, and I would have loved to meet the 31-year-old Darren while I'm 31. But I think at this point, you're very much so like, how do I put it? You're like, the principles that you will like, your principle, I'm trying to think about this. Basically, you will say, like, you really will like hark on things and you won't let them go. In terms of like, if a principle has been crossed, you won't necessarily push back and like, all right, cool, let's just get past it. I didn't like that happened, but it's the world we live in. And that's how I am. I'm very much so like, I don't agree with that, but it's the world we live in. Got to move past it. Can't change it now. You're over here like, you're right, we can't change it now, but I'm standing on this and I'm not moving.
You talking about my Nike position?
your Nike position, half of your Adidas position,
and y'all will never see me wear Nikes on this podcast at all.
We'll make it happen.
Another conversation. Keep going.
Even like some of your political positions and who like you like appreciate on some level, but at the same time, you will never forgive that politician ever.
Right. Fair enough.
So and it's just like we might agree on the reason why, but I won't really. I'll move past and be like, all right, whatever. Like
I don't know if 31-year-old Darren. I think he had. He had convictions. I think they were in other areas, and then also, I think he was growing up and maturing.
Right.
But now, and this, I think I felt like this after I was, I think when I turned 50, I started having this mindset. It's like, you know what? Most spaces I'm at, I'm the oldest person in the room.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be the oldest person in the room. And you know what? I really don't even care if folks agree or disagree or whatever, because I'm gonna have to stand on my business. I'm standing on business. Boom. Period. And this is what. And if it costs me something, it's cost me something, because realistically, I got less time on this planet than I spent.
Okay.
And because of that's like what most of the stuff that people look for in I got a wife, I got kids,
right,
grandkids, own a house, been able to travel a little bit.
Well, that's what I tell you.
Got a couple dollars in the bank. I'll be like, okay, you only some of those things you can take away from me, but I'm okay.
But that's what I've said to you before in terms of like, you speaking from that specific hill. And that like where it makes your opinions and stuff like that less tangible to the real world and the dilemmas going on.
And that's where we disagree, because when you say less tangible to the real world, that means that I'm living, in some kind of space where it's not. When you say to me not realistic, I think not
pragmatic
authentic.
More so.
No, but I'm saying fair, either one, pragmatic, realistic, whatever. I think not authentic, and that's always what I push back on. Is the fact that it can be different, it can be rooted in age and wisdom, but it's still just as authentic as what And so that's a whole conversation that we have all the time, right? So this is how I want to close the show out. I'm gonna give you a couple of words, and I just want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. Okay. It's about 5 or 6 words. First word is God.
Okay. Jesus.
Is that a question? You're not sure?
No, I'm just like, I think of God. First word I thought it was God because you said it. No, I mean, like, what do you want? Do you want to expand on that, or like?
Just what are your
thoughts?
I
think it's just like, I think that, when you talk about God, I think it's very interesting because a lot of people believe in God, but they don't necessarily but not every religion believes in God for the most part. But the nuances of it are what separate us, and that made many people die over them. Many people find joy in life over them. But that dilemma, that dichotomy in terms of what do you believe about God, and how does God interact with your understanding of the world? I think that's something I really try to do in terms of okay. Like I even going I range from what my perspective on hip hop, what's my perspective on food and health, to what's my perspective on aliens. All comes through the lens and the prism of what's my understanding of God, and what's my relationship with him and all like that. So that's what I think about that.
Cool. Family.
You would have asked me a month ago, I would have felt differently. But these kids have been driving me crazy. I think that I love family. I think that family is great. I think that having a healthy family is something I didn't realize was so important, because I thought everybody had that. I think the older I get, the more I realize that people did not. And that level of mean
healthy? You mean like healthy, like mentally healthy, like not like or physically, or both?
Well, possibly both, but also just more so just those relationships, those healthy relationships within that family.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize a lot of people really just don't rock with a lot of parts of their family, and there's parts of my family that are not a little bit more unseemly, but for the most part, I rock with my family, and I think that understanding that, I think that that's one thing I really want to cultivate, because I think that as it wasn't easy, but I think that that's something that you and mom did very well in terms of y'all gonna sit together and y'all gonna like each other. And you find the ways that you guys do like each other. And as the oldest, I also view myself as the prototype. So I see all my sisters as being different variations of the attributes that I have. So
you are tripping.
No, it makes sense. As in I have I share interests with all of my sisters.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
But one of them might have just maxed out in one level. So me and Melody both like computers. But she's maxed out in terms of that engineering and tech side and STEM side more than me. We both like anime. she's gone a lot further than I have in terms of like, understanding Asian cultures and, Asian media and whatnot. So like
Okay.
that. So that's
Okay.
where I look at it in terms of,
I don't know
having
if prototype is a word, but keep it pushing.
I mean, a prototyping, every car is modeled after that one.
Oh my God, keep going.
That's what a prototype is.
Keep going. Keep going.
Anyway, so I say that to say that I think that it's really, like, family is very important because it's just like, having that healthy family really allows you to both deal with a lot of the craziness that goes on in the world. Because it's like, all right, like every time I have like interview or something like that, I tell people like, oh, I come from a family of like craziness, like chaos. As the oldest, I don't tell them I come from craziness, but I know how to, manage a lot of chaos and, still keep a cool head. And at the same time, never really blink, never be unwavering. At the same time, be level headed and, get the job done and goal oriented. Not so. I mean, I going back to family, I could talk about it all day, but yeah. So
okay, all right, music.
Love it. I think I love almost every type of music. I think that
Did you take a Beatles class in college?
I did take a Beatles class, one of the best classes I've taken.
You're a weirdo.
It was a fantastic class.
Oh my gosh.
You don't realize how.
I know that they had.
They had hits from the technical side though. They did some innovative stuff, and like you also didn't realize, like I didn't realize how like the nuances of all these different albums and how like they were going through so many transformations as people throughout this entire thing. Some of them I thought was weird and that was ridiculous, and that album wasn't good. But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that part about them. But as all of music though, I love it. I think that like hip hop is like my basis for like my appreciation for other genres. And like, I think that sampling especially is amazing because I think that's you're able to incorporate so many other genres into your genre and still make it your genre while still paying homage. And that, like, sampling is the real reason why I like house music so much.
How did you fall in love with music, man?
How did I fall in love with music? I don't know. I mean, I think it was just like music was always around me as a kid. Like it was always like you guys were playing Stevie Wonder and stuff like that, vibing to it like on Saturdays and stuff like that. But I think that like, and that's probably why like I hearken to him as much as I do, and for better or for worse, I felt as though Kanye was the first person to ever like show me sampling, in terms of like, yo, he took that from where, he flipped that from how, like he sped that up, he pitched it down, like what, and you turn that into like something amazing. It was great before, but like dang. So then, but that also introduced me to all these other genres. But I mean, also at the same time, you were always playing like a bunch of other genres outside of hip hop. So you were playing like a lot of country. I didn't really vibe with it at that point, but I understood the appreciation for it. But like a lot of soul stuff, like Ivy doesn't really listen to soul stuff like that. I love soul music. I think that connects directly to my understanding and relationship with blackness and Black history as a whole. Because it's like, dang, like there's no other like culture has funk, like the actual genre. That's a distinctly Black American creation, which is very unique and it has influenced a lot of things outside of jazz and everything like that. Or that's another Black genre. Nonetheless, music, I love it. I can literally listen to all the time. And I realized in some of my darker times, especially during like the pandemic, I was like, okay, what's going on, man? Like, why do I just not feel the same? And I was like, yo, I haven't been listening to music that much lately. And once I started doing that again, I started feeling more so like myself. But it's just like I forgot to do that because you're sitting in the house, you worry about the world ending and stuff like that. And when you're like really feeling like
that was a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
last thing is I don't know if it's a word or whatever, but when you think in terms of a podcast like this, what Black Dads think,
right? I don't know why you got her up here when I'm here, but it's fine. It's fine.
That was just the picture, bro.
I bet. We don't got no pictures together, right?
Huh?
We don't have any pictures.
No,
together.
That's just the season. Remember, I said we're talking to dads with daughters this season. You, my son, you don't count in that mix.
See, look, you heard it here first, y'all.
The pictures will change, bro, over time. But my question to you is just this: is that a podcast like this, what Black Dads think? Why do you think that this podcast is, or do you think that a podcast like this is valuable, and what's the benefit of it, or do you? I mean, because you always got a different take. So what's your take on that?
No, I think this podcast, like you said, why don't I think it matters?
Yeah, why do you think it
definitely matters? I mean, I think that like, excuse me. I think that a big part is the fact that a lot of these, I think that Black people with dads know that Black dads exist. And they know the impact of having a Black dad. Even if like, their parents weren't together, their dad was around. Like I got one of my best friends, parents aren't together, but his dad was all throughout his life,
Mhm.
and he sees that all the time, and he like
Mhm.
appreciates. They have a great relationship.
Mhm.
So I think that that's one of the things where like a lot of people don't know that like having like black dads existing is a real thing, and like we're, depending on what studies you're looking at, the most present in our kids' lives.
Mhm.
But I think it's also just like, I think that the impact of dads in general, but especially black dads, can really change the trajectory of understanding of like who you are, the confidence that you have, your understanding of like how the world works, and the nuances that go into whether it's relationships, whether it's raising kids, whether it's just your enjoyment of life, how you feel about who you are, and your understanding of how you should be interacting with the rest of the world.
Mhm.
I think it all comes back into that, and I think that like, it's not the only thing, but I think I think it's a big part in the fact that like a lot of people don't think it exists, or it's not there. Like every black person don't have a dad, and it's like I look around in my family, like out like my friends, a lot of us did. Like, and I mean, I'm not like poo pooing people that don't, but I'm saying they're around,
Mhm.
and just highlighting that is very crucial, because it's like people over here think it doesn't exist. Like, oh my gosh, you're like rare, and it's like I didn't feel like I was rare. I grew up with a lot of like black dads around me, so I think that like it's crucial that people understand that we exist, but at the same time, like the work that is being done just by that presence, like you talked about, just being around,
Mhm.
is really crucial. So
So that is a perfect outro. Black dads are there. Black dads are present. Black dads are around, and we want to spend some time just talking to some black dads and seeing what they think. And when I say what they think, not what they think about, but what they think, because the reality is just this: is that it is a critical conversation. We will continue to have it throughout the season, through the course and the life of however God allows us to keep this podcast flowing. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with me, Brett.
yeah,
Appreciate you.
yep,
And then what we'll do is just this is you will see me again. You'll at some point you will see his sons. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I'll get those little guys in the room. And thank you for just hanging out. Again, what black dads think. Catch it on wherever you catch your podcast. But more importantly than that, stay with us. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Peace.